Anyway, how are you? There is a very big question that was asked of me. There's a picture I've shared of President Idi Amin. In 1972, the year I'm born, that's when my parents get married. My mom and my dad. You know the story already. The wedding of the year 1972. It was attended by the who's who. Yes, my brother. How are you, sir? Good, long time. Okay. In 1972, those who don't know, those who weren't born yet, my mom at the age of 16 gave birth to me. My dad was 24, very young couple, very young. That wedding was a very big statement in Kampala, in Uganda. The wedding of the year, organized by the late Patrick Chwanuka, Uncle Patrick Express, and the mayor of Kampala, Walusimbi Mpanga. Do you know, I've told you this already, you know that Kampala Road was closed off to allow people to watch the motorcade, the wedding convoy, whatever, as they made their way from the Afro Studio, Kampala Road, opposite Fido Dido, Wewali Afro Studio, on their way to Silver Springs Hotel, Bugolobi. From there to Lugogo Indoor Stadium. There were two receptions. One for the VVIP. The president didn't come. The president came to the church. The president came to Namirembe Cathedral and also John Lumu, Bishop. My dad had very, very strong connections in the church. Yes. Misairi Kauma was in attendance. Bishop Senyonjo, the one who passed recently. My Obi, John Sechu, his dad attended my dad's wedding in 1972. Everybody had to attend. That wedding was highly anticipated. And many people were left wondering, who was my dad? He was neither in politics and he was neither anything of a political figure. He was a businessman. Very much a businessman, having worked for a few short years. 1969, that's when he entered, I would say, was that civil service? Mango Growers Cooperative Union. Those who don't know what unions or cooperatives were back then, they were very, very strong. They were very, very strong entities. And my dad joined as a chief principal financial auditor. Ngamubazi wa bitabo, he was very, very good in finance. In 1969, when he finishes his studies at Bukalasa Agricultural College, Dr. Meriton Obote had come up with this vision. The vision was a new republic or something based on what he called the common man's charter, that Uganda was going to become a socialist country. I'm going to repeat myself again. There was a very big conference held at Lugogo Indoor Stadium when he was nearly assassinated. The president was shot at. In fact, I know the names of the guy who shot him, the president. I have that information, but it's not for the conversation. It was a rogue entity. It wasn't anything to do with anything. It was a rogue entity. The president survives the assassination and is admitted in Mulago Hospital. That is where I'm going to be born as well in 72. In the private wing, that's where the president is treated for bullet wounds. Survives. So that conference was attended by very many high-ranking officials within the East African region. The presidents, heads of state, call them what? The famous ones is Kenneth Kaunda, Jomo Kenyatta, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, Mengistu Haile Mariam, Savimbi, I think. They were still waging war. They were going to begin waging war. Is it Namibia, Mozambique, and even at that time, President Museveni also was in there. He was a UPC youth winger. Bonna abavubuka bonna abasinga bali mu bya youth UPC. At that age, my dad was around 20, I think it was 21, 22. Then they are taken to Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, whatever, those communist countries. It must have been Yugoslavia. Then they were, trained or whatever, oriented in communist ideas and everything. Gabagezi. All the people who were brought in. Hello, my friends, how are you? All right, all right. They picked the cream of top students. So after they return, my dad ends up in agriculture. West Mango. No, it was Mango Growers at the time. Mango Growers Cooperative Union, one of the biggest, and it would become the biggest under the stewardship of my dad in the finance. That is the Obote 1 regime. So by 1970, 71, comes 72. Hey! The government changes in 71. Obote is overthrown while in Singapore, attending a Commonwealth conference. And then he was with Henry Chamber, a personal friend of my dad. And for some reason, he was the principal private secretary to the president. But then he would end up in Amene's government. How did he maneuver that? Because for him, he came back to Kenya and then came back to Uganda. Obote came back to Kenya and then went to Tanzania. I think he went to Tanzania. That's where he was granted asylum for the 8 years. He was in Tanzania, Moshi. Are we together? It's very, very interesting how my dad is written out of the story. There is no mention of his role in so many things that would take place in Uganda throughout the 70s. He was very, very pivotal, very, very instrumental behind the scenes, especially when there are things you will always see up front, and there are always things that remain behind the scenes. So he becomes one of the richest people in Uganda. Sets up, when he leaves Mango Growers at the top of its success, because he had divided it into two, West and East. It was huge. Mango Growers Cooperative Union was so huge. There were many other cooperatives. There was the Bukedi, there was the Bugisu, there was the Masaka Growers, there was Banyankore Kweterana, there was Kigezi Growers Union, they were everywhere. Bunyoro Kitara, there was in the north, you know that. So they dealt in everything to do. They had fought for that. In fact, the cooperatives are very much the cornerstone of Uganda's independence. When the farmers protested in 1948, eventually in 1955, the Kabaka runs away. The Kabaka came to UK to seek asylum. Then they would return, and then they signed another agreement. There's one Buganda agreement in 1900, but there's another agreement in 1955, if we don't know, that reduced the powers of the Kabaka. Kabaka Frederick Mutesa, a very personal friend of my dad, who would grant him a scholarship. Kakati tata wange yali mu mupiira. Let's go back. Mulaba Moses Ali. Moses Ali was in the 70s once the president of Federation of Uganda Football Association. My dad was in football. If he hadn't pursued the career in business, he would have played football, because how he got the scholarship, he had been one of the young Ugandans in 1962 who played the pre-independence football tournament, the Younger Younger Cranes, where they get the word Cranes Club, National Cranes. Kakati, the national team of Uganda is called National Cranes. But the team that had that name were my dad. They were about, the junior Cranes, they were about 13, 14, 15, probably 16. Yes. And he played in that tournament. Later on, he would win a scholarship when he was playing against the Kabaka. Mupira gwa bataka, mpira gwa, there's a way they were calling it. Yes. Because he used to talk about these things. One kulukuku. Then he scores a goal against the Kabaka's team. And my dad would win the award because the Kabaka's team lost. But then they became personal friends. And that's how my dad ends up in Bukalasa on a scholarship. After finishing Mango Senior School, Mango Senior School, you didn't go there unless you were Omwana Wani. You had to be somebody's child and very bright. Your Uncle Patrick Chiwanuka Express, he has a royal connection in Buganda, and they were personal friends together. Tata wange ne Uncle Patrick, they used to cycle the same bicycle. Uncle Patrick had a bicycle from Komamboga to Mengo, Basoma. I have the picture. So in the 70s, after that wedding, mulaba ku kepu. Tumanyi bintu bino. Nebintu byonna tebiri documented, teri abyogerako, teri abi. Okay. Era biva mu Afrigo band. Kati club band Younger Cranes mwe mugenda okuva Afrigo. I wanted to meet Moses Matovu tunyumyemu naye I'm going to meet him one day. Thank you. How are you?
Thank you.
You done?
Yes.
Okay, have a nice evening. All right, buddy. My dad pioneered so many things. Where he was always a mover and a shaker. Kakati, in the 70s, when it became obvious that Obote was overthrown, there was a clandestine movement, underground movement based in Tanzania. They had the contacts in Uganda amongst the people kakati mwe temumanyi bintu bino nze mkambabuulire by 1979 when the war to overthrow Idi Amin, it was always going. It was Lunotalo underground movement that by the time the Tanzanians came in, it is called an offside trap. There was no reason for Amin to attack Tanzania. That was a bad idea, but it was his downfall. And Tanzania would use that as an excuse. Au wakombozi waliingia Uganda kurudisha Obote. Era meeting nazo neza kikosi maalum boito joke bona ba mikono ja tata wange. Fetwali Kenya. By then I was in kindergarten in Kenya. We had a house in Kenya. Kileleshwa wabeera ngo na Uganda abagagga mubuze gundi Francis Babu, Captain Francis, Uganda Airlines yali pilot. Bebavuganga bamama baffe nga bagenda okusoma, the elite, the billionaire elite. Abakazi babe, most of them were so much. Kati, let me tell you this. The elites post-independence, bakwata blueprint y'abazungu nga bwe baali babeera ne babyeta. They just embraced everything. Babeera Kololo, babeera Nakasero, you know. If you are to have a discussion, a constructive discussion, minor sentiments, nagala omuntu are breaking it down picture yali mu Uganda post-independence. Kakati come the 70s, it was the rise of the young elites. Kakati those who were willing to change the country going forward. Post-independence was enshrined in overthrowing governments, dictatorial whatever regimes, the army. Most of the African countries, it was the same thing. So the Uganda of the 70s was a double whammy or a dichotomy. Okay. So when we come to the 80s, Obote realizes that the elites, the young elites, who had put money down the line, who had put so many, many people were killed. Nze ba anko bangi nyo baba tasuji mwa kilio wa kiwanukoyo wa express wali mukwano gwa muzeyi wange ba mutira Uganda. He was returned back from Kenya blah blah bintu biwanvu nnyo fe ze binakulanga mpulira ukiraba kati rule military commission Uncle Paulo Mwanga yalina ambassador Nakoma we Uganda. He was the ambassador to France. Very good friend of my dad. Eventually in the 80s, he would be our neighbor in the Upper Manda Road. That is the Uganda I'm talking about. Now, when we mu 80s, the guerrilla war, what was the whole point? Because bonna bayibalwanisa Obote naye ate Obote yali abaleese. Kati nga nze nja kugamba tata wange yaliko youth wing mu 69 bangi nnyo bamuseveni bonna baaliko ba youth wing sijui DP byani byonna byali bigenda maaso elections whatever mu 1980 Binayisa yajjange waffe Godfrey Binayisa, he was a personal friend of my dad as well. And Echorutaro, Charlie Wechiti. It was a contestation of the spoils. Charlie Wechiti. And I'm giving you facts. Mistake eyasoko kolebwa Obote yakukwata ku mwanyi. That was toxic for him. He didn't see it coming. Kakati nayagala rewardinge ba billionaires bano ba elites. Naleta parastatal mtemuzimanyi. These are government performing whatever assets. Later on they were called non-performing. Ebikampuni bateekateeka nga ebikampuni ne bawa abantu emirimu parastatals. Naye he had already made the cardinal mistake. Kyekisinga okunyiiza ba billionaires bamuzeeyi baffe. Sitatu wange n'abalala bangi bateeka ssente mu lutalo lwa Museveni. Of course, Museveni could have stayed with Obote. In fact, baali bamuwa n'ekifo ky'amaanyi nnyo. But what did he have to lose? Amaanyi ye mu elections n'agamba nti he will return to the war. He will go to the bush. To the bush with who? Lwaki olutalo the center point of the war ended up in Luweero. Luweero gye yewaali abagagga. Ffe faamu yaffe yali Luweero. N'abalala bangi besobola kwogera mu mboozi eno. Kakiri twalinayo faamu nnene nnyo, square miles. Kabuli mixed model farm. Waliwo n'enkambi, twalina enkambi ku faamu yaffe. Masuliita, kapeeka. Si ennyimba ze bayimba mu lutalo. Tulijua na mane kapeeka oto whatever masuliita whatever. Ye waffe ye wali faamu yaffe. N'ebirala bingi nnyo. And ekibuuzo kino bangezezaako I've tried to help this person. So my dad was behind the scenes. Tabeeranga continue yali ayagala nnyo ebya politics. Byali bya probably he wasn't cut out for politics. My dad was more cut out for business. Okay. Bwe baba rewardinga. I remember my dad had very big shares in Lake Victoria Hotel and Lake Victoria Bottling Company. Nga subsidiary ya Crown Cox ekola amacupa n'ebitali nga yiye. Kyenabagamba nti my dad was an industrialist. And of course, coffee. Zinalaba General Coffee Merchants. Very big export of coffee through Coffee Marketing Board. Naye the mistake had been made by Obote in 81 bwakwasa oyito Joke Mwanyi. Lwe lutalo lwa Museveni lwali economic. Ate lwali funded. Kamba bulire. Nze nalaba ku ssente waffa waka. Kati behind the scenes my dad yalinga the financial muscle. Muba elitsi era sente bazeetanga awaka mu bikutiya. Nazirabako twalina akaruumu ke nasulangamu.
Uncle, how are you?
I'm fine, guy. Where's your friend?
Yeah, my friend.
It's coming. You finished?
Session.
And what did you do? Legs, shoulders?
Chest and biceps.
Chest. Woo! Okay, guys. Kati, our home in Chevandu. Batubbe emirundi mingi nnyo. Our home was ransacked. Nga banoonya documents during the war. Abasirikale b'Obote. Ne tuddukako kona awaka ne tubeerako ewandege awo mu Mase Hotel for a few months. Yeah, we couldn't stay in the house. Yes, my friends.
Yes, Uncle.
I'm good. Uncle is good. It's finished.
I'm good. If you're good, I'm good.
I'm going in to do classes.
Class today, yeah?
Yeah. All right. I'll see you guys. Yeah. All right. Kakati, our home was ransacked. Banoonya documents. Ne bajoocha bitali byonna byonna ne bakwata emmotoka ya mami Benzi ne baji bingi nnyo. My dad's life story. Saagenda deep. So I didn't do a deep dive. Nandigenze ne mbabuulira ebintu bingi nnyo naye ebintu bingi nnyo bambuuza. naye ekisinga okuneewuunyisa nti okay, my dad took ill suddenly in 1990. How nowadays you live early?
Huh?
Where's your friend?
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, how you say? Good. And the other one?
He's not here. He's a replacement. That's not a replacement.
So yes. All right, I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, I think it's more.
Be good, be good. All right, guys.
Where have you bad?
What?
Where have you bad? Thank you.
Tomorrow we do press ups. 100.
No worries.
100 press ups. Kakati, my dad is not mentioned anywhere. Nagala nnyo 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 mwogere ku taata wange. Chanda. Role gye yakola y'amaanyi nnyo 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 taata wange. Era nzijukira Museveni lwawamba mu 86 waliwo pate y'amaanyi nnyo 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 waffe. Kyebando. Kyebando. Netugaba sukaali. Mujjukira sukaali wa LCRC. My mom joins the women's representative. By 96 she wanted to enter politics, but my dad had passed away. My dad took ill mu 88. Kakati nze kyetu speculating kiriwe kiti mu 85 bajjako Obote ba arresting. There was a list era bakyogeranga nti waliwo list etambula ne bayoola abantu bayoola nga bagagga beereere ne abatwale Kololo Summit View. That is where we met my dad. Baabula bubuzire and then nti baabakuba empiso and then subsequently, that is 85. Okay, 85 went by. There was the state of emergency. Bakoze omupiira gwa November. Nga biri mutata wange ne Moses Ali. Nze mbabuulira. And then Museveni comes in 86. People begin to die. Abantu batandika okulwala bye tutategeera. Njabba w'amannya. Very strange. Naye taata wange yali muto nnyo. He was only 40. Naye ebintu byali akoze. Hey. Lord's Bar, Kaleerwe, City Pub, Ginger Road. Waliwo ewandege awo wano ewa Byencha. There was also another one called Paridi whatever, another posh place in Wandegs out College Inn. Ngawo naona wasimbawo Benz zokka. Benz. Mwe musaaga n'okusaaga n'ensi. Temunnalaba bintu mwe nemulabye ku bantu ng'ate baana bato. Baali baana bato nnyo 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 nga bali well groomed. Obote yali agulumiza abaana aba youth winger bajje bavuga ekintu kye, but of course that dream never came about. Uganda would be a socialist country now. And they were communist. Ati abandi nyumiza embuzi ya tata wange kati abasinga bonna tebaliiwo, especially the wedding of 1972. Hello my friend. So, and that was it. And I was born in 1972. I was born in Molago Hospital, private wing. And then life begins from there. Very privileged upbringing. Nyo. Singa mwala wake wa fenga. Echebando. abantu beegombanga okujja ng'ewaffe bannange bayitawo amatala gaaka tegavaako tulina zigenereeta zikuba TV tulina essimu awaka landline. You're talking of the 70s. Mami are shopping at Draper's building. Mujimanyi Draper's building kati mujita Crane Chambers. Wanseri Ugantiko wasebagala gula chocolate gula bita byonna Smarties whatever ona zinakula bimbirya engoye ziva London St Michael British Home Stores bwe bulamu bwe twogerako kati. So bingi nnyo ebitayogerwako abantu babyerabira naye bwe mbabuulira 80s n'ebyaliwo byonna n'olutalo olwa Museveni engeri gye baalulwana lwalimu enjuyi nnyingi nnyo. Bankwanga Busujju Bakayiira baani bonna Baganda balwana baali ku kintu kyekimu. The agenda was one. Baalina dream ey'ababiliyoniya. Babiliyona baalina sente zaabwe nga baagala ensi etunule vision gye baali. They had this romanticized thing of utopia. Kye baabateeka mu 69 Uganda erina vision, kind of like socialist, grandiose things, you know what I mean? Bwe bityo ebifaanana. So tujja kweyongerayo. We shall continue this conversation. Kano kalese bulesi because oli ambuze ekibuuzo nti taatawo nga tebamwogerako at all. He passed away very early, 4 years after Museveni came. Museveni yajjako ne ku faamu yaffe newaliwo enkambi yajjawoko waliwo n'ebifaananyi bye tulina. Yajja ewaffe ku faamu batrainingirawo ne faamu endala. Faamu yali yakagundi ya Kaaya Eruweero. Kati ekyo temukimanyi. Kaaya yafa. Kati Kaaya the son Tom Kaaya Keke Obi wange twasoma ffenna bambi rest in peace yafa during COVID. Naye mukyala we Annette naye oji wange tuwuliziganya. So byebyo emboozi nja gimalayo mpanvu. It's a long story people.